A later summer update on Johnson's Pond.
The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
So I'm not sure how to actually describe what we're going to do here this evening, other than to say that we've got, we've got a defendant, we've got a plaintiff. No, we have a plaintiff. We have two sides of the story, even though I don't think there's necessarily just two sides when it comes to Johnson's Pond. But we have had conversations here in the last couple of months regarding Johnson's Pond, the water level, the 600 so residents who are affected, the new water rights owner, if you will, and the contentious nature of the relationship between both parties. And our original conversation was with the Johnson's Pond Owners Association and the good state senator. And then our second show on this, and you can look at this at WPRI.com and find some of the archive footage of this, was from the counsel for the water rights holder. Tonight we have counsel back and Senator Raptakis back, and I'll probably just sit back and listen because they don't agree on much, but I will tell you, at the end of the day, we need a resolve, and I'm not exactly sure what that's going to be, but it better come because it's getting a little hairy when it comes to how people feel about this particular matter. Now, I can show you, let me throw you a headline here, at least it gives you a little bit of a flavor. This is just recently on WPRI.com. We've in the past showed you kind of the background discussions of all of this. There's a little bit of that included in the latest update. Let's roll it.
The lease between the town of Coventry and the owners of Johnson's Pond's water flow rights and dam is set to expire in about 6 months. Now that the current owners do not plan on re-signing a lease, it raises questions about the public's access to the water. As the legal battle over Johnson's Pond water levels continues, the expiration date of the lease is looming. It will expire in March 2024. The attorney for Soscia Holdings said Wednesday they have no plans to renew the lease with the town of Coventry, taking issue with the town's required maintenance of the dam. The Soscias recently had an inspection of the dam and piers and says it found deficiencies they say raises safety concerns. But the town disagrees, saying there is no imminent threat of collapse. Residents around Johnson's Pond have recreational access under that lease. Without one, it could mean their access will be restricted or even cut off. Soscia Holdings cites a Mill Pond Act that will allow such a possibility, saying residents have no right to use the water in any capacity without a lease with the town. The Coventry town solicitor would not comment on what the town's next move is, but did say establishing a dam district is on the table, as well as other options. Now, the Soscia's attorney tells me his client likely will not draw a hard line in the sand in terms of residents' access to the water. The town tells me they are weighing all legal options ahead of the lease's expiration date. I'm Anita Buffoni, 12 News.
Pretty comprehensive there from Anita. The attorney she refers to is Mr. Dougherty, who joins us once again. Great, best suit of the summer.
Thank you
no,
for having
no doubt
me.
about that. And State Senator Leonidas Raptakis, fresh from Greece. How hot was it, by the way?
Very hot, about 102, 105.
Oh my gosh, this global warming thing is real, don't you think?
Quite a few days of fires. You read and saw a lot of the fires that were happening in Rhodes Island, Evia. I mean, it was pretty intense.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm glad you're back, safe and sound. Just to distinguish between who's role playing here, obviously, Mr. Dougherty represents Soscia Holdings, which is the new proprietor of the water rights over the last few years, acquiring it a few years ago from the long-time proprietor there. Lou, you're a more than interested party. You're an elected official. You have a lot of concerns about this. You'll have your own takes on this. You're not representing the town. The town, no. For the most part, Anita did some great work there because the town has not been very publicly articulate about these matters. And that's been a source of frustration for me, trying just to get the truth about what's going on. So I'm judging that you'll use your veteran judgment to distinguish between what your thoughts are and what the town's thoughts are. But let me ask you, do you think the town has been a little bit too quiet in terms of its public discussion of this Johnson's Pond matter?
Well, first of all, my role is being a member of the delegation in Coventry, representing a good portion of Johnson's Pond. That's the reason why I've been introducing and did pass one major piece of legislation. We had a second piece that did pass the Senate. Hopefully we come back next year, probably keep the council pretty busy at that. But my issue is that I look at the constituents, we try to address issues, and we've addressed issues in the past regarding the sewer issue in Coventry. I had to pass 3 pieces of legislation to try to address the sewer assessment from $35,000, now it's down to $15,000. So I step in when I see something that is that has issues. I don't want to blame the town because the town right now is in litigation, so they are quiet probably because they're in court. There's 3 different judges right now hearing 3 aspects of Johnson's Pond.
Yeah.
Federal judge.
I understand that, but there's litigation and there's litigation. There's a public discussion here, and I think there's going to be a public political solution to this in terms of the pulse of the people. We should, in case anybody is kind of confused about how this story goes, Pat, we ought to talk a little bit about the essence of this thing. So once upon a time, God created water, right? This could be a long show, but Johnson's Pond has long been historically a place where the former proprietor of the water rights was pretty nonchalant about the relationship it had with the public, correct? And the water the residents around the water. Would we agree on that?
Yes.
And it's been a recreational use for all this period of time. And what the complaint is now is that your client is erratic with the levels of the water depth, and when he drains the pond for whatever reasons, it prevents water recreation, it puts docks in jeopardy, it creates a problem for the environment, it affects real estate values. Add to me the big picture, if you want, elements that you think are important to that, and then we'll get into some of the nitty-gritties of the case.
Sure. The pond was created to hold water for reserve use by the mills downstream in the south branch of the Tuxet River. It was always a private body of water that was subject to the owner's complete control. It is not a regulated wetland. DEM has been on the record in years past. Now they're kind of skating against that. But it's not subject to the Wetlands Act, Freshwater Wetlands Act. And it is a body of water that is controlled and created by a massive dam that was built to dam up the Flat River, in so many words. And my client has taken ownership not only of the dam, some land below it and above it, and also a lot of the land underneath it, but they also have the flowage rights, which were attendant to the ownership of the dam and the creation of the dam, or the body of water to begin with. And recreation has only been allowed by grant of right from my client's predecessor in interest, the Quidnick Reservoir Company, and leasing by the town of Coventry. The big controversy that has come into play here is the town of Coventry's lack of performing their required maintenance on the dam, which has led to some serious issues of concern for my client as a dam owner. And the reason that water has been dropped down more so than in the past is because of that condition of the dam. My clients are concerned as dam owners, they're liable for any death, destruction, casualty to property that is caused by their operation of the dam or their failure to maintain it in good order.
Now you're smiling.
I'm smiling because, first of all, DEM has every authority. This is the 7th largest body of water in Rhode Island, fresh water, lake, pond, whatever you want to call it. DEM has every authority. We have passed so many statutes, so many state laws, given DEM to regulate almost every single body of water. I totally disagree.
Well, that is the essence of the court case that,
exactly.
that is actually in the federal court right now. So their disagreement is natural here, and I don't have a robe, and I'm not going to be making any decisions here. But what your client and your advocacy argue is that what the state has done to, for whatever, what DEM has done on behalf of the residents and the town is unconstitutional.
That's correct.
And what they've done is they've passed, they had, through the auspices of good legislators like Lou, have passed a new law signed by Governor McKee, which gives DEM the authority over all these kinds of bodies of water, and that any water rights holder or any specification changes to the operation of the place is subject to the approval of DEM. Is that a fair characterization?
And there's 6 bodies of water that came under this law. 4 out of the 6 already went and got the permit. They agreed with the law.
Gotcha.
And one of them is right now under review, and the only one that refused was Soscia Holdings.
But you'll admit, as happens oftentimes, that the law was written because of the Johnson's Pond controversy.
Correct.
And you find that to be unconstitutional.
Well, I find,
or problematic.
I find as applied to my client, that's unconstitutional and problematic. To begin with, the General Assembly of the state of Rhode Island gave these rights to Quidnick Reservoir Company back in the 1800s. In 1982, the General Assembly of the state of Rhode Island ratified a corporate charter for Quidnick Reservoir Company to convert it to a private entity. Along with that were all the rights inherent in the corporation, including what we call a franchise right in the water. And that is an issue in the federal court right now. But once a state grants a franchise right, that's a contract between the recipient of that franchise right, so long as they act to perfect the contract, which they did. They built the dam, they impounded the water. And now what has happened with this last act is there's an attempt to take property rights that my client paid money for and purchased from Quidnick Reservoir for nothing. That's an unconstitutional taking of private property with no compensation.
The argument I think the state makes, not to make your argument for you, Lou, but is that circumstances change and somebody needs to do something.
Absolutely, and we've done it in the past. We had a famous case, Rhode Island Court Clerks versus the state of Rhode Island. They had a contract. State of Rhode Island changed the benefits. They had benefits of how much percentage they should get for an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree. They had a long-term contract. We changed it, state law. And the judges, when they decided, they always said that, look, the time comes where you have to adjust to a contract.
Going back to the essence of one of your complaints, Mr. Dougherty, is the condition of the dam. Mm-hmm. And you recently sent me a consultant report that I reviewed. It's just a couple of pages, suggesting that there are problems with the security of the dam, which ought to give people pause. And it's somewhat instructive to your client about, you know, a tentativeness that's probably necessary about the water levels. How dangerous, if that word is applicable, do you think the dam is right now?
Well, we don't think that it's in danger of imminent failure by any stretch of the imagination. However, and in fact, my client just in the last week went ahead and effected a Band-Aid fix on it by jacking up the capstone to the spillway that was settling, replacing all the masonry and stonework in there.
So we did some work on it.
Oh yeah, they did some work on it.
And you say the town is responsible for doing that work.
Yeah, the town should have been doing that. The town has been doing it.
Do you have a perspective on the town's relationship here?
Look, his client got stuck his backhoe in the middle of trying to decide on his own to try to address the issue they was talking about.
What are you showing me here? Did
So
you show?
this
Did we
is
get
his
these
client.
pictures? No.
This is his client getting stuck in Johnson's Pond without asking even the town what to do.
So this is, I don't know, Eric, if you can find it, but this is
Doug Soscia's backhoe
Lou
getting
always
stuck.
comes to me with a graphic that I can't get on the television. But that's a stuck backhoe, is what you're saying.
I mean, you're gonna do this on your own to try to address a problem which Judge Leach right now is hearing that issue, whether the spillway is safe or not. And for me to say after 3 years, it took one patchwork of trying to address that after 3 years, that he's been erratic of the levels, claiming the spillway's in danger for the last 3 years. And then when he bought the pond on top of it, when he bought the pond in 2020, it's like buying a vehicle. You inspect the vehicle. If it's a used vehicle, you inspect it, you try it out, make sure it works. You don't go buy something all of a sudden. And we know from the day one, Dan, that this was a money grab.
That's an inaccurate description of what that was.
Why?
Because you don't know your facts.
It's a picture that was taken.
You
What was
constantly
the
make
picture?
allegations.
I'm not making
That is a
allegations,
picture
that's
of
true fact.
Let me finish.
Real quick.
That is a picture of the backhoe that was carrying a massive amount of sandbags when the defect was discovered in the dam back in July, and we got the letter on the 17th. It was the following week because there was a major rain forecasted by the National Weather Service, and they wanted to protect the integrity of the dam.
Okay. You know, this is the kind of, come on back to me here, if you will, Eric. This is the kind of he said, she said type of thing that's been going on about facts that are never agreed upon and the like. The bigger picture, I think, is what we need to focus on when we come back. So stay with us. All right, so my guests are going to leave here a little frustrated because we're never going to get to all of the issues that are really important. And you can see there's some of the dam and the Johnson's Pond. It's beautiful, and you know, people who have property values that are in what they think are in jeopardy are really the central concern, I think, for me, and you know, the recreational use and the environmental issues as well. At the same time, I do get that Soscia Holdings bought the place, or bought the rights to run the place, if you will, and they think the state has stepped on their on their toes. Mr. Soscia, your client, you'll admit, is one who doesn't shy away from a fight, right? So the undercurrent here is that people are really mad at each other, and you've had a summer where the water levels have still been up and down, I'm told. You think incredibly erratically so, correct?
Absolutely. That last since he bought the property in 2020.
And
the data, USGS shows that.
Check some of the other shows. You know, I'm not going to burden Patrick with all of the history, but you've shown me clips in the past where the dam or the pond's water level has been the subject of debate. So you're suggesting that what your client is doing is not unusual, but is because, fill in the blank.
It's good dam safety management, good flood prevention management. One of the things that is
somehow the residents don't understand that he's acting in their best behalf.
Well, he's acting in his best behalf and the residents downstream in the South Branch because of concerns for his own, for the Soscia Holdings liability as well as a dam owner. One of the things that has been such a thorn in this is the fact that people do not recognize the liability that is attendant to ownership of that dam. And each and every one of the drawdowns of the water, if they weren't specified to be done in the contract, they were done by following the flood warnings and flood watches and tornado and hurricane warnings and watches out of the National Weather Service, which is the same entity that FEMA and Rhode Island Emergency
In other words,
Management
big rain
follows.
coming, he has to act.
Yeah, well, if
And you giggle at that.
I giggle at it because every time he's got more weather experience than probably every TV station and radio station in Rhode Island. He predicts the weather coming when there's going to be a flood, a tornado, a hurricane, whatever.
We don't predict that.
But the biggest question, Dan, is what are they going to do after March? When the lease runs out, what are they going to do?
Which is what the subject of the
Exactly.
of the story
And
at the beginning was, and we'll get to that in just a second. But I just want to make sure that we have an understanding about what the operational differences are here, because I think they are important and germane to the final solution. It seems to me that while they're fighting the DEM's authority, if this thing cleared, the DEM may acquiesce to some of the arguments that he makes about environmental issues or weather issues that could affect the levels of the pond.
Yeah, the pond has been recognized for
In other words, would
eons.
DEM say no to the Soscia Holdings if everything was you know, in simpatico here? Would the DEM say no? You're acting irrationally because we've got a big, you know, 6-incher coming and the dam is old and it needs to be secured, and so let's let some water off.
We have emails from DEM, from David Choppy, that are broadcast to all the dam owners in the state of Rhode Island from some of the weather events that they're complaining that the water was drawn down. You, as a dam owner, are responsible for any flooding. You must take steps to, in your discretion and reasonable judgment, to take steps to prevent that. And one thing that's a falsehood is that there is never, it's been said that my clients have been flooding out people in the South Branch of the Patuxent River. You can check the data and the facts. Since my clients took ownership and management of that dam, there has never been a point where the South Branch of the Patuxent River has reached flood stage as a result of their management.
To Lou's point, though, there's a bigger picture here, and when we come back for a few minutes, we're going to talk about where this whole thing does resolve. Okay, stay with us, please. All right, going back to the top of the show, the crux of the matter is right now you've got a lease, your clients have a lease for the water rights.
Or the town is leasing levels.
I'm sorry, the town and the nature of the lease between your client and the town is what?
It's provision of certain levels in the pond during certain calendar periods of the year, subject to the provision of minimum stream flows. That expires March 31st.
The town has an obligation, though, to manage to
do all the maintenance.
Maintenance of the dam. And there's a dispute about whether they have done so.
Yes.
And this lease runs out in March. Meanwhile, you got a federal court case on the bigger picture on whether the DM can step in via the legislation that was passed, and there's a local case that is about the actual lease itself, correct?
That's correct.
All right. Hopefully, one or two of those cases resolve by the time the lease expires in March. Do you think the timetable will allow for that?
I'm hoping so. I know that the federal court will be taking up a big question in September.
Regardless of the cases, Lou, this seems to me, and we've talked about this, we only have 90 seconds here.
Sure.
It seems that the town can buy out Mr. Soscia, create a district to regulate this whole
Or
thing.
eminent domain.
Or take by eminent domain.
Exactly.
And that ought to get in this price, and you've been open to both.
Absolutely.
But the big
The
question
guy
is
made
what-
his play.
Yep.
He originally asked for $100 million.
3 years.
You know, and
Tortured the residents and the town.
That's we disagree with that.
No.
Well, is there a figure, Pat, that you guys are, you don't have to give it to me, but is there a figure that
Sure.
you guys have settled in on?
Yeah.
And it's a
there
lot less than whatever the propaganda $100 million thing is, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so it seems to me the town's electors really need to decide whether or not.
Appraisal. There should be an appraisal done by both parties too.
Is there
That's another
is
issue.
there a vehicle for a fair appraisal?
The interesting thing is finding appraisers are very difficult for this unique type
This
of
is
a
an
property.
anomaly in a lot of ways, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it absolutely
It's
is.
been done before.
But we've located someone who we feel is competent to do it. But I think the numbers are going to be astronomical because what would it take to impound 700 to 900 acres of water, build a dam, pack it, back
But
it
there
up?
is a number.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right,
And
the guy made an investment. He made a smart investment.
Sure.
It's cost him a lot of public relations aggravation. But it seems to me the town ought to take over Johnson's Pond. Do you agree?
I agree. But the
All
big
right.
question is, if it doesn't, what happens after March 2024?
I don't know. That's for another
that's the
chapter.
big question.
Thanks, guys. Great to
Thank
have
you.
you.
Well, we can't get an answer.
Yeah, final word and we come back. Stay with us. You know, this is actually a Supreme Court case, meaning it could be, it should be, it likely will be when you have a contract that is perceived as sovereign and the state comes in and changes the terms of it. And so this case could travel, unless they make a deal. Which do you prefer? Do you want to see this thing go on for years to the Supreme Court, or you want to make a deal? Stay tuned. Have a great week. See ya.